Yeah.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning, Nick. Niklas Hemlin, Arizona Airspeed. And I had kind of wished for a glorious Florida spring morning with blue skies and sunshine and all that, but we have to settle for what we get.
Yeah, no, it's perfect. I've been on the road for 3 weeks, so today is like the first day I can just exhale. So
yeah.
This is good.
You just mentioned you felt a little bit beat still this morning.
Oh, big time.
What was going on here?
5 days in England, and I think almost 2 weeks in Spain, and then 2 weeks here in Tampa. Flying 3 hours of tunnel a day. So it's been a long 3 weeks, but a good 3 weeks. Yeah.
And where we are, our host here in what is it?
Claremont.
Our host is Ahmad Casas. He has been organizing indoor events, outdoor events in Florida.
Yeah. The WTL on the Florida Astronomy League and stuff. Yeah, great stuff.
So we'll throw the scores and information out very soon. But we couldn't miss the opportunity to pick Nick's brain a little bit, not only in the flying chamber about techniques and stuff, but also about the wind games specifically, because that's where he came from, and that's where the world has looked at in the past week.
Yeah.
What was going on there? Airspeed ended up 40 points behind, 30 points behind Hayabusa, or what? What did you see?
I think the story is a little bit bigger than just the points, because after the world meet, we had a dose of confidence and a dose of tasting a possible win. And I feel like
2 points, right?
Yeah, 2 points, but we went into round 10 tied, you know, and we really grew with that meet, because after round 1 we were down by 6 or 7 points at the world meet. So I felt like the story goes that we found ourselves in Australia, and the first half of the wind games, that was us. The second half of the wind games, we lost it. And the whole idea of trying to outscore the competition, trying to win something, versus just doing what we do and let the chips fall as they may, you know. And the other part of the story is we did a lot of refining on technique and entrances, which I think are going to bear fruit later on in the season. But all these little adjustments that we have will fall in line with also our tunnel performance, but also our skydiving.
Yeah, and right now we are basically talking about indoor season, right?
Yeah.
That'll be over in...
But our goal is Russia 2020. And I really enjoyed, people won't really see it, but after the first 5 rounds at the wind games, we were only 1 point behind a Wimby, and like, I don't know, 18 points or something, 15 points down on Hayabusa. So, and it felt like us. And it was still some technical things that we need to improve. We not as quick as some things as the other teams, but it felt great within the team. And then the last 5 rounds, even the best of those jumps or skydives didn't feel that great within the performance.
What did you see on? I mean, I'm sure you were observing Hayabusa and the Wemby, the high rollers. What do you see? What was the difference? Also, how they were flying. And the
Hayabusa is wearing the crown of world champions, and I'm not just saying that they are the best; they own it. And you know what we saw in Bahrain, the Wimby beat them, is the perfect storm for Wimby. Not to take anything away from them, but Hayabusa owns being the champion, the king of the hill. And they don't always have the best of something, but they just put it together. And yeah, I mean, you can't argue that fact. And Wimby High Rollers, I love the energy and I love their drive. And I think on this meet, they didn't look as sharp as maybe as before. So I'm not saying taking anything away from it, but I think they're going to go back and put some serious work in, you know, because it was 20 points between them and Wimby, and if you have 20 points between a team, you're not in the running. And if you have 40 points like between Airspeed and Hayabusa, we're in a different league. So we have a lot of work ahead of us. Yeah. But, you know, this lineup at Airspeed has been the underdog from day one. Rhythm was going to beat us in 2017, and Hayabusa was going to spank us at the World Meet, and we've been the underdog. We've been the underdog since day one. So that's a position we like to be in, coming from behind. But this team, no one in this business works harder than this Airspeed lineup. No one does more skydives, does more tunnel, and I think it's gonna, in the end of the day, be to our advantage. So.
You noticed, no doubt, I guess, that the Wemby high rollers had an interesting continuity plan. They had their point and tail once in a while in the center, but not only for B slots and slot switchers, they had them in the center on certain rounds. Did you notice that? I'm sure.
Yeah.
What do you think of that? I mean, it's that's very flex. I mean, the continuity plans have become more flexible in general anyway, but that's the kind of a new thing.
Yeah, I feel like for them, they're flying with, they're mixed, right? 2 males, 2 females, and I feel like the advantage of the muscle strength of the 2 males versus the 2 females, and they leverage that to the best of their ability. So I feel like they've become ambidextrous in the 2 slots based on what they need. Sometimes they don't have a choice, and the slot switcher will switch them A slot, B slot. But when they have a choice, like on 21s, they put the Roy and Julian on the outside.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And there was no slot switcher; it was just the A slot in that round. Interesting.
But I mean, especially Julian and Roy are so experienced that they can take any slot on the front piece or back piece and not skip a beat and still be competitive for the gold. So yeah,
pretty amazing. Huh?
Yeah.
Well, you have to know all slots anyway these days in AAA. There's no way around it. The question is, I have not seen this before, so that was.
I mean, that's the interesting part. Like I've been having a conversation with Airspeed as far as the consequences of the new blocks, especially 1, and like the finish of the 22, the finish of the 12 and 21. I think more and more. We're treating 19 and 4 like a slot switcher, more so than a standard. So I think for the front piece, based on some other swings that are more likely to happen, we might be, for the front piece, a 10-round slot switching meet if you have the a specific draw. So I feel like ambidextrous being on the front piece is a have to in the future.
Right.
Yeah. Because I mean, it's just needed. We cannot do the traditional angling because you lose a point every page, or you lose a point every 2 or 3 pages, and when you do 6 to 10 pages, that's the 2 or the 3 points. That's the difference in the end.
Explain quickly for the audience on block 4. You said in 19 that's monopod, and Ritz ice pick. Why you think or why you handle them like slot switchers?
Well, it's just it's on the finish to whatever comes next. It's just so much movement needed to take you back to your 8 slot that it's actually quicker to cut a different path into your B slot. That's all it is.
Are you teaching this already to AA teams, intermediate class teams?
No.
Because that's in their dive pool.
Yeah.
They still go around.
I mean, there's a maturing process you need to have when you actually need to know your A slot and B slot. So you have to weigh the benefit of the actual one move that puts you into B slot is quicker, but then the overall B page might be slower. So you have to weigh those two to make sure that you make a proper decision. And even the open class or the AAA teams might not do it. It all depends on how comfortable you are and what's the rest of the dive. If you have another block in that skydive that you're terrible at B slot, you might, hey, let's just make this longer random transition and stay in A slot.
Yeah.
And some people might say, hey, we're going to kill it. So then we're just going to stick with slot switcher, A slot, B slot. In a block that was never intended to create a switcher.
Right.
Yeah.
And we have the traditional swing moves anyway.
Yeah.
In situations where, which are even more...
And another thing to consider these days, momentum. I mean, you cannot... we flew at the WTL the other night, and I asked you to take an outside turn from a Q to a J, and you're like, you didn't like it. But we cannot, we have to use the advantage of momentum these days. We can't go left, right, left, because there's 2 stops in there. We have to go left, left, left to carry the momentum through the transition. And that's a lot quicker than starting something, stopping something, regenerate, starting again, stopping again, regenerate. That back and forth costs time. So a lot of blocks also become switchers depending on what's next, based on just carrying the momentum through.
But I'm a AA flyer, so would you do that to Okay, let's talk about the new blocks quickly.
Yeah.
Experiences with the new blocks. So what did we see, and what works and what not, and what have
I think block 1 says it's directional. The only two options people have is does the point go through first for the finish, or does the back go through first? I think Hayabusa and Wimby both have the front go through first, so the finish happens more with the back piece tagging the point, and Airspeed does the opposite. I don't have any information yet because we didn't see it in wind games where we declare a winner or the right technique, the wrong technique. I think it all has to do, our back piece, Thiago Michael, they could pop out of that start so quick that whatever they naturally would fall behind, they make it up right then and there.
We also had a different grip yesterday. I was privileged. I was allowed to touch this thing here.
The Swedish guns.
So that's a different grip. I was not on the grippers. That was a technique. Do you think that's legal? Is there a rule problem?
No. I mean, the grip line is up here by the shoulder, so you can hold my pinky if you wanted to. Anything from my fingernails all the way up to this grip line is a legal grip.
It worked very nicely. I liked it. But that also goes to the Canadian T issue that was at 1 meet. I think it was the European Indoor Championship last year, where the grip wasn't visible enough. They had a normal wrist grip, and then they locked it somehow during the turn, so the judges could not see that grip anymore because it was over the elbow.
The assumption has to be that it's there because you cannot turn that piece without a grip.
The assumption, right? But they anticipated that was all busts, you know, in Norway.
But there is just no way on 8 to turn that with the centrifugal force pulling the pieces apart without a grip.
Yeah.
Well, at that point, I think the judges are taking their responsibilities a little bit too seriously.
Okay.
It's the same as on the world meet for the female team from the US Phoenix, that the wrong grip was on the H, in my opinion.
Right.
I mean, it's if you were to judge everyone by that, the grip is there whether I held it or you hold it in the end of the day, you know. And also with that turn on the block 8 in that case, I'm just giving my opinion. I haven't seen the footage. I'm not studied up on this particular case, but you cannot turn that piece with all the centrifugal force pulling the people apart without a grip.
I'm glad you say that because you know I agree with that fully. But the judges have always said you have to see the grip. If they cannot see the grip, then we have a similar situation on all the compressed accordions now, especially block 12, where you're locking it in, and then the piece is so small you don't see grips any longer there, right? But you cannot fly the piece.
Yeah, and don't get me wrong, I feel like judging these days are drifting into slow motion, which I like, because I mean, as we go this fast, you have to be able to do it. But I mean, we all know that do 4-way that actually fly, you know, and some judges actually train actively, you know, like so like Claire and Dirk. They, I mean, they are actually on forward teams. So and Jim Reese. But some people haven't done 4-way in forever. Some people haven't done it in a long time. So you know, if you spin a certain piece, if that spins like that, you have to have a grip, even if you see it or not.
Bring it up to the next IPC meeting.
Yeah,
the common sense of it.
Yeah, that's to me, you know. It's
no. I mean, we all
because this sport is all about evolving and getting things smaller, and you know, the science is if you spin that fast. If I were to let go of you, you would hit the wall of the tunnel or fly off the screen in a skydive.
Absolutely.
So it's just one of those things, right?
Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, you can basically only smile about it anyway because you know that.
Yeah. If that piece spins so fast,
there's no grip. You go out of the frame.
Exactly. So you should get a score just for holding on.
So that was block 1. Now let's talk about block 13 then.
Block 13 is a little bit more, you can go different directions. I definitely think the centers going through first, even for novice teams or expert teams, is the way to go. Because you could either just go straight through with no vertical, or you could pop over. And at the wind games, we saw 2 different techniques. Hayabusa and Airspeed doing very similar. The only differentiation there was a grip. Airspeed likes the double grip, and Hayabusa picked up just a simple.
Right.
And it all depends on how much you want to cheat it, I think. But then Wimby, they literally had the centers. You just side slide over, boom, no turn at all, and it was very small, especially the second part of the block. The problem with that is a very fragile block. It's like block 22 in 8-way, where you have two people side sliding over to the outside, and here we just have two people side sliding over. So for the expert teams, it won't be a problem. But I also saw the potential of center point bus, because Wimby was very close on two of those.
I think we had some.
Yeah, so that's a new one. So sometimes we insert blocks to get away from some of those. When we cheat things so much that we have to pay attention to center point bus. There's a lot of blocks that have been discarded in the die pool for that reason, and now here it comes up again. Because the name of our game is to find the shortcuts and make things as efficient as possible. And I love that part.
And we're doing this because Niklas, of course, naturally is coaching a lot. So you're with all kind of teams, and that's, you know, your job, basically. Your job is to fly with airspeed, but then the rest of your life is coaching job. So it's good to know that he is the guy who knows it all about coaching, about doing it. And that's why I'm picking the brain a little bit more carefully here. How did it fit in? That was a 14-foot flying chamber in Spain, right? So how did the new blocks for all the teams fit into the tunnel?
Oh, no problem.
Okay.
I feel like
no matter what technique.
Yeah. I feel like when you dive straight through, you have to have more of a cheat. So for the novice teams, the more of a 21 setup you have, for that person to go straight through is kind of easier, I think, maybe. But yeah, it all depends.
So it's basically a copy of 21, more or less.
Yeah, I mean, you have to kind of face the center of the formation if you're the point in the tail a little bit, but how much it all depends, right? But I feel like 13 is going in a direction, you know, based on some action by Hayabusa and airspeed in the block versus efficiency on the high rollers. And you know, it's I feel like to a certain degree, when you're at the level, you have to find what works for you. You have to try it all, you know. But what works for you, it's kind of personal to that team a little bit. And you know, but it's definitely tricky to negotiate that vertical for the lesser experienced teams. As we saw yesterday, I flew with Randy Cutcliffe and Suzette and Omer, and they were for the first time trying that vertical, and they had a little bit of a hard time in the beginning, but then they started getting it, and it just requires some practice, you know. Yeah.
Back to airspeed and competition, what's coming up now?
We're going to go home, so tomorrow we're back training. We're going to thoroughly evaluate.
Tomorrow?
Yeah, tomorrow, yeah. We have 4 days of tunnel training, and then we have 4 days of training at XP right before the meet with Sala Williams, and then we have the meet. So we have 8 days of training before round 1 at XP. And yeah, there's a lot of scrutinizing our meet. Yeah, we're gonna go home and debrief it. We kind of already had a conversation at Win Games to kind of quickly conclude the meet, and then we have to analyze it on ourselves, and then we come together and do a team evaluation.
Are you actually jumping while the indoor season? We have an indoor season now, that's for sure. No. Are you jumping at the same time?
No, not this year. We're trying to just January through April is all tunnel, no jumping. We start jumping in May, so we've taken a little bit of out of Hayabusa's playbook there. But you know, the tunnel is so efficient, and there's certain things that we need to get better at that are just way better to do in the tunnel. And once we are a jumping team more than a tunnel team, everyone knows that. But there are a few things we need to find in the tunnel that's going to translate for us in the air.
But this basically counts mostly for the top teams or for the national teams anyway, because all the other teams who do not go to the top meets, indoor meets, they hopefully continue to jump from planes in the meantime, or are they all following this schedule now? Yeah. Winter season, indoor season, outdoor
I think
season? It's
becoming more and more. I think the tunnel, like just entrances in the tunnel is becoming a science of its own. Before it was just kind of, let's just figure out as we go, and I feel like me as a coach, I'm starting to figure out a system that you and I played around with yesterday with your team, and it worked really well. So I think it's becoming more specialized than anything else, indoor, outdoor, for sure, and even for belly. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
All right, Nick, you have a long way home. It begins to rain again. So let's leave it like that. Thank you very much for taking the time. And Niklas Hemlin, he gave us all the insights that he can give.
Thank you, guys.
Call him if you need him.
Thank you.
Shameless promotion. Goodbye.
Thanks, guys.